There is a highly unlikely, yet ever-present risk that the sun will unleash a massive eruption, as it does every 1 to 200 years, and it could completely change our way of life. Normally, humans experience these events as little more than brilliant auroras, perhaps even globally or at very low latitude. But today, humans are uniquely vulnerable to this event because of our dependence on electricity. Let's begin by looking at the relevant solar features. Now, this is the visible spectrum. At sunset, you can even see sunspots if you've got a clear view. They are produced when the solar magnetic field pushes through the photosphere. On the magnetogram, the red is negative charge and blue is positive. When these areas are large and magnetically mixed, they can release a flare. Sitting above the surface of the sun, visible via the STO AIA 171, you can see charged particles suspended above the solar surface by strong magnetism, the most concentrated of which is often where the magnetic field loops and forms the sunspots. These are the particles that constantly escape as the solar wind and leave en masse as the coronal mass ejections after large electromagnetic energy from the flare expels them. In 193 angstroms, you can see enough of those particles to notice where an ultramagnetic area opens up the field and allows a coronal hole to form as the dark areas here. Now, as you watch some flares and CMEs, starting with the largest we've ever recorded, let's nail down the difference between a solar flare and a coronal mass ejection, or CME. Flares are the bright release of X-ray and ultraviolet radiation that occur when strong magnetic instability causes twisting or other interaction of the magnetics of an active region. This arrives at the speed of light. When we notice the flare, it's already hit Earth. The CME is the part with which we are really concerned. The charged particles that are expelled from the corona by the energy of the flare, it's what takes 1 to 4 days to arrive and would be the devastator to our way of life. It would strike the magnetosphere, directing energy along the lines as it compressed the shield, sending plasma into geosynchronous orbit, possibly destroying satellites and possibly turning them into falling objects. The energy would arrive at Earth through our poles, through the field lines, and would overcharge the auroral electrojet, inducing powerful ground currents that could destroy the global power grids. Now, the closest modern humanity has seen to the kill shot was 1859. A very large solar flare and CME caused what is known as the Carrington event. As energy surged through our early electronics, they unplugged telegraph machines, but the messages continued to transmit, and the lines even caught fire. This was likely not even close to the worst our sun can do, but a similar mid-level mega flare, if I may characterize it as such, could cause $2 trillion in damage today and take 10 years to repair, according to NASA. I actually think that's low. Interestingly, you don't need a huge solar cycle for this to happen, as the Carrington event cycle was nothing special apart from the event. You might not even need solar maximum, as the fourth largest flare we've ever recorded happened in the heart of the last minimum. More recent minor events that were not mega flares were the Quebec blackout in 1989 and the Sweden blackout in 2003. Now, as I said, humans are now uniquely vulnerable to the kill shot. We depend on electricity. Imagine empty store shelves, empty gas pumps, no water from your faucet, no heat or air conditioning, no phone or police. Just a lot of hungry people in the same situation you are. The sun won't kill a soul, and frankly, it might not have to. The effect on aircraft and flight would be dangerous as well, not to mention if there happened to be manned space flights at the time. There are a lot of interesting facts to learn about these events, like how sometimes you don't even need a solar flare. The reason I constantly point out plasma filaments is that they tend to erupt and cause CMEs that can be bigger than the traditional ones caused by solar flares. This occurred on September 1st, 2012, to the day on the anniversary of the Carrington event. There are also polar radiation storms, or solar energetic particle events, where the magnetic connection between Earth and Sun is surged with energy, sending protons and electrons to Earth at nearly the speed of light. For example, on a scale that goes to 5, this is a Class 3 storm. It occurred on January 23, 2012, after a large M8 solar flare occurred while the Earth was magnetically connected to the active region. On the chart here, during the eruption, left is Earth facing and right is the backside spots. There is also a primary Earth footprint connection, but that was not involved in this event. Make no mistake, despite seeing probabilities of another significant event as high as 10% in the next decade by NASA, I think the chances of seeing a truly global grid killer in our lifetime is very small. Yet it's worth realizing just what situation you might be in if it happens. And Earth is becoming strangely vulnerable to less and less powerful flares as our protective magnetic grid begins to fail. Not the best timing as we become ever dependent on electricity. Did you know our magnetic poles are shifting as well? At the bottom of this chart you see 73 years of North Pole movement. It's supposed to move, but this was actually a large jump for the time frame. Clearly it had just begun, as in less time it had moved more than 10 times further and moved a similar distance in only 29 years as of 2001. In 2005 it was found moving at 25 miles per year and later seen moving 40 miles per year, or about 575 feet a day, and that was 2 years ago. I still doubt the kill shot is our fate, but the weakening shield and shifting poles are causing an enormous change on our planet and leaving us ever more vulnerable. For a general background on this electromagnetic event and an introduction into why climate change might not be as much of our fault as you've been led to believe, see 2 videos linked below called The Evidence and another called Solar System Shift, which describes our collapsing atmosphere and over-energizing as well. The hard part here is approaching these topics with an open mind. All of them, including the kill shot, are worth understanding. Just remember, when they talk about this, their time frames for blackout is in years. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.